So I've been working on TCP connections between different instances of VESC Tool, and it has been there for quite a while, and I can show you the one that has been there in case you remember it. So one scenario that has been quite common is that you have one version of VESC Tool that is connected to a motor controller over Bluetooth, for example. And this is very often the mobile version, because the Windows versions of VESC Tool don't support Bluetooth. And what you can do then is, if this VESC Tool is on the same Ethernet or on the same network as a desktop version of VESC Tool, then you can start a TCP server here and connect to it. And that still works. That also had some improvements from before, and I will show that here. So before you had to, let's see, I will start by connecting to it. So this one has a small Bluetooth receiver plugged in there, and I think it is this one. And now we're connected to this one, and we can see the orientation, everything as usual. So when we go down here, then this is the thing that we had before, that you can activate this bridge. And when you activate this bridge, you will see an IP address here. That is the IP address of the phone, and then you can connect to it from the desktop version using this address. But one thing that has improved now since before is that it will actually send a broadcast, I think it's called broadcast or multicast, broadcast UDP package when this one is active on network. So VESC Tool will detect if one of those is present. And here is the latest version of the beta, and you can see in the right side here I have added this connect screen here as well, and it will work exactly the same way on the mobile version. In fact, it's the same code, so this one will behave the same way. Just when you have the desktop version, you also have the serial port option to connect to if you want to access it from here. So now if we go to, let's see if we can show them at the same time. If I activate this bridge here, that was the wrong one, this one, and you see almost instantly, you see this TCP bridge showing up here, because this one will broadcast that it's active now on the network and you can connect to it here. Likewise, if I disable it, it should disappear in 3 seconds or so, because it doesn't hear it anymore. So that is nice and convenient. And now when we are here, we can just connect. And now if we go, for example, to the IMU data and show the 3D plot, then we can see that if I move it here, it will move on the desktop version as well, because we are on the same network. Now, another problem you might have, or another situation you might find yourself in, is that you are able to connect using the phone, like we did now, but we don't have a client on the same network connection as the phone is, but you are connected to the internet. And this can be useful. I mean, often if you have a laptop, you can get to the same network easily, but imagine that you want to have you have some kind of vehicle so that you want to go far away with, and you want to sit in some corner with a laptop and do some analysis and change settings and so on over a long distance. Then it would be convenient if you could do it over the internet, and that is what the VESC Hub or the TCP Hub function does that I have added recently. So instead of connecting from the client directly to the server VESC Tool, you have the server connect to a TCP hub on the internet and sign in there with a unique ID and an optional password for this particular client, and then this particular server. And then this client can connect over the internet to the hub and ask if this given client is present. And if it is, the hub will establish a connection between them, so it will go via the hub. And it can handle, well, it just dynamically creates and deletes connections, so it can handle a lot of connections. So let me pause the video and switch off the internet on my phone. Okay, so I didn't mean to say internet, switch off the Wi-Fi. So now my phone is only connected to the internet via 4G, which is quite weak in my basement here. But it's not on the Wi-Fi, so if you do the same thing again, and I do activate bridge, then it will not show up here because we're not on the same Wi-Fi as the computer. So in order to use the TCP Hub, you have this area below what is it called here. Actually, let me zoom in so we can read the display a bit easier. I think I can zoom in here. Yeah, that works. So here you have the bridge, and then you have the hub below here. And the hub it might be a bit confusing. I mean, both of them confusing, but now it's even more confusing. So you can see in the hub here that we have a connected server, and that means that you are connecting as a server here so that others can connect to you. But you also have a connected client, meaning that you could connect to someone else who is a server at the moment. So you can also have two different phones that are connected over a long distance. But in this case, we will connect the server. And the requirement is that you have an ID that is 3 characters longer. It can be any ID. And if someone else has the same ID, it will throw out that ID from the hub. So if you don't want to be thrown out by having 1, 2, 3, for example, then you should have a longer one. And you can also have an optional password here, so that when you connect to it, that you have to give it the correct password. So let's give that a try. And by default, if you do reset to defaults here, by the way, then it will reset the server to vesc.weather.se, which is the one that I'm running. But you can just run the server on any instance of VESC Tool. It's built in as a command line option. And the other thing that happens is that it takes the unique ID of the SDM and makes a 32-bit CRC and uses that as the ID. So that is an auto-generated one, but you can type anything in here. So let's do that. Connect it. And now if you go to the desktop version, there is another way that I will show in a bit, but first I will show just this page. So you have the same things here that you can connect as a client to server. Here you have a checkbox instead. And I think this should be set to the same thing as I had here. And now if you connect using this button, then we manage to get the connection, and let's see if that works now. Zoom out a bit and go back to the IMU data. And if I move this one, you see it's still working, and I'm connected over the internet now. And then if we, for example, on the phone, you see that we're connected here. If I go ahead and disable this one, it will disconnect because the client disappeared on the hub. And you can also, for example, if I set a password, say, I have to stretch my arm a bit because I'm sitting quite far away from the phone. So let's see, let's set 1, 2, 3 as the password. And start the hub again. And then if you do the same thing, it will not work because we don't having the correct password. So if you do 1, 3 here as well, 1, 2, 3, then it should work. Now, another thing that is interesting is that once you have managed to establish a connection with the TCP hub, it will actually remember that you had a connection to this particular address, ID, and the port. The port is also one thing, but if you're unsure, just leave the default port. So if you have connected once, in the connect screen, you can click the scan button and you can do ping TCP hub. And what that function does is that it will list all the TCP hub devices that I have managed to connect to at some point in time, try to connect to them and send a ping command and see if they respond. And if they do respond, it means that they're connected to the hub and that they're online. And then you can connect to it here, so then I can just click on it. And I think I remember the wrong one because I had a different password, so I will update the password and then this should be working. So that is really convenient, and I can also show that if we disconnect now and ping TCP, it will show up. But if we go to the phone and disable it and ping TCP again, it will not show up. And that is because it connected to the server and I didn't find it, so it didn't respond. And then you know that it's not live, so it's quite easy to have a device that you keep reconnecting to. So yeah, I think that is, I quite often find myself in a situation where I have something that is connected over Bluetooth or over a cable and I need to communicate far away to it. It's also like sometimes I do support over a phone meeting, and then it's convenient if they can set up a server and let me connect this way instead of having TeamViewer, for example, because TeamViewer is slow and a bit cumbersome in some cases. So yeah, hope that is useful.